I sure as hell wasn't prepared to be rediscovered by Nancy Myers.
Diane Keaton gave us hit after hit. Annie Hall, The Godfather, Something's Gotta Give, Father of the Bride. She was an actress who evoked strong emotions every time she appeared on screen. But sadly, on October 11th, 2025, the world lost her. The woman we all grew to love and connect with through her roles was gone. After her funeral, tributes poured in from fans, friends, and Hollywood legends. Everyone had something to say about how much she meant to them. But her daughter Dexter stayed quiet. For a while, no one heard a word from her. And when she finally decided to speak, what she said caught everyone off guard. So, what did Diane Keaton's daughter reveal after her mother's funeral? Let's get into it. Diane Keaton, the woman who lived on her own terms. Diane Keaton wasn't just an actress. She was an entire era wrapped in wit, charm, and quiet rebellion. From Annie Hall to The Godfather, she became the woman who could make you laugh, cry, and think, all in the same scene. But what many people didn't know was that, beyond the screen, Diane's greatest role didn't come with a script. It came with two little humans who changed her life forever. She became a mom in her 50s, not because it was trendy, not because she felt pressured, but because something inside her whispered that it was time. Diane adopted her two children, Dexter and Duke, and built her world around them. She raised them alone, proudly, and with a sense of purpose. Speaking in Ladies' Home Journal, she reflected on that moment in her life, calling adoption the smartest thing she had ever done. She admitted that motherhood wasn't something she had been burning for since she was young. It was more like a thought that followed her for years, until she finally took the leap. And when she did, she went all in. Before that, Diane had lived a life that could fill several Hollywood love stories. She had relationships that the tabloids would still gossip about today: Woody Allen, Al Pacino, and Warren Beatty. These weren't casual flings. They were passionate, complicated, and often intertwined with her work. She and Woody Allen created some of cinema's most iconic moments together, and she remained close to him through the years. With Al Pacino, their chemistry spilt from The Godfather straight into real life. Then came Warren Beatty. During the time they filmed Reds in the late 1970s, two creative forces collided in both art and love. But through it all, marriage was never on Diane's list of must-haves. She once admitted in an interview that at 73, she realized she might be the only one from her generation who had stayed single all her life. She believed marriage simply wasn't for her, and looking back, she felt at peace with that choice. She even joked that her exes were probably just as relieved. If marriage wasn't meant to define her, motherhood did, in the most beautiful way. Diane once described it as the most humbling experience of her life. It grounded her. It made her look beyond fame and red carpets to something real, something lasting. She wanted her children to grow up knowing who they were, not just who their mother was. And as she aged, she became honest about her fears, wondering what it would mean to have kids in their 30s while she would be in her 80s. She wanted to be around for them, to see them thrive, to share lessons, but she also knew she had to give them the freedom to make their own mistakes. That balance, she believed, was what true parenting was all about. To understand Diane Keaton, you have to go back to where it all began. Born Diane Hall on January 5, 1946, as the eldest of 4 children. Her father, Jack, worked as a civil engineer, and her mother, Dorothy, was a homemaker who often encouraged Diane's creative spirit. After graduating high school in 1963, she left California for New York City, hungry for something bigger. There, she enrolled at the neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater, a conservatory that would mold her craft and her confidence. There was already a Diane Hall registered with the Screen Actors Guild, so she borrowed her mother's maiden name and became Diane Keaton, a name that would one day light up marquees across the world. Her rise wasn't instant. She paid her dues with auditions, rejections, and small gigs. Then came Hair in 1968, the boundary-pushing Broadway musical. Diane made headlines not just for being part of the show, but for being the only cast member who refused to strip during the finale. That small act of defiance, pure Keaton, fearless, quirky, unapologetically herself. Soon after, she starred opposite Woody Allen in Play It Again, Sam on Broadway, earning a Tony nomination and forming a creative partnership that would change both their lives. As Woody transitioned into directing films, Diane became his muse. They teamed up for Sleeper, Manhattan, and the legendary Annie Hall, the movie that blurred the line between their on-screen romance and their real one. Her performance in Annie Hall didn't just win her an Oscar, it redefined what it meant to be a leading lady. Neurotic, funny, vulnerable, and completely unforgettable. That same year, she stunned audiences in Looking for Mr. Goodbar, playing a woman whose search for love takes a dark and dangerous turn. It was raw, intense, and showed just how fearless Diane could be. But it was the Godfather trilogy that cemented her as Hollywood royalty. Her portrayal of Kay Adams, Michael Corleone's wife, brought heart and humanity to a story drenched in power and corruption. By the time the 1980s rolled around, Diane had worked with some of the most brilliant minds in the business, from Francis Ford Coppola to Warren Beatty. Her performance in Reds earned her another Oscar nomination, proving she wasn't just Allen's muse or Pacino's co-star. She was a force in her own right. After a few quieter years, she roared back with Baby Boom in 1987, a comedy about a woman juggling career and motherhood, art imitating life, in a way. Around that time, she began exploring her skills behind the camera, directing music videos, TV projects, and even an episode of Twin Peaks. In 1995, she made her film directorial debut with Unstrung Heroes. But it was comedy that kept her in the hearts of audiences. Father of the Bride and its sequel made her the mom everyone wished they had. Then came The First Wives Club, where she joined forces with Goldie Hawn and Bette Midler to give scorned women everywhere their cinematic revenge, and an $181 million box office hit. When asked about fame, Diane once described herself as ordinary, someone who wasn't expected to do much, yet somehow did everything. And maybe that's the secret to her magic. She never chased celebrity. She chased stories, emotions, and truth. She aged gracefully on screen and off, embracing her silver hair, her quirks, and her independence. Later roles like The Young Pope, Book Club, and its sequel, The Next Chapter, proved that Diane Keaton wasn't just a star of the past. She was timeless. Even in her 70s, she was out here making us laugh, cry, and believe in reinvention. Diane Keaton lived, really lived, on her own terms. She never needed a husband, never played by the rules, and yet she built a life fuller than most. She taught us that love doesn't have to look traditional, that aging can be beautiful, and that being yourself fully and unapologetically might just be the most powerful act of all. Diane Keaton and the men who couldn't keep her. Diane Keaton never walked down the aisle, but her love life, oh, it could fill an entire Hollywood romance anthology. She didn't need a husband to define her. She had experiences that made the rest of us watch and think, wow, she really lived. Her relationships were the kind that shaped not just her, but also the stories that defined her career. Woody Allen, Al Pacino, Steve Jobs, and Warren Beatty. Each of them left their mark, but none managed to hold on to her forever. It all began with Woody Allen in 1968. She had just auditioned for his Broadway comedy Play It Again, Sam, and something clicked between them instantly. They started dating soon after, and for a few years, they were inseparable, a quirky, intellectual duo that just made sense. But by 1972, their romance fizzled out. Diane packed her bags, left New York, and headed back to California to film The Godfather. Their love story might have ended, but their creative bond didn't. They went on to collaborate on 8 films: Annie Hall, Sleeper, Love and Death, Interiors, Manhattan, Radio Days, Manhattan Murder Mystery, and even the film version of Play It Again, Sam. Woody Allen later revealed in his memoir, Apropos of Nothing, that he still turned to her when he needed help. He described her as someone he'd call for advice on casting, creative blocks, or just about anything that troubled him. Their partnership hit its peak with Annie Hall. The movie didn't just sweep the Oscars, taking home Best Picture and Best Actress for Keaton. It captured their real-life chemistry in a way no script could fake. Afterward, she continued to appear in his projects, including Interiors and Manhattan, and later returned for Manhattan Murder Mystery in 1993, stepping in at the last minute after Allen's former partner, Mia Farrow, dropped out during their very public custody battle. That scandal rocked Hollywood. In 1992, Mia Farrow accused Allen of behaving inappropriately with her adopted daughter, Dylan. While Allen's affair with another of Farrow's adopted children, Soon-Yi Previn, was making headlines, Allen denied all allegations, was never charged, and later married Soon-Yi. Through it all, Diane stood by him, even when the rest of the world turned away. During the height of the Pratinsadar Me Too movement in 2018, when people were cutting ties with Allen, Diane publicly defended him on Twitter. She reminded fans that she still believed in her friend and encouraged them to watch his 1992 60 Minutes interview before making judgments. To her, their work and friendship had always existed in their own space, untouchable, no matter what storms hit around them. Sources close to Allen revealed that their friendship never wavered. They kept in touch, sometimes by phone, sometimes through short messages. Every time Diane spoke up for him, Allen would reach out, grateful as ever. And in 2014, Diane spoke about him with admiration. She described him as one of the strongest people she'd ever known, someone made of steel, whose discipline and work ethic taught her more than any acting class could. She noted how, even in his late 70s, he was still directing, playing the clarinet, and making a film every single year, refusing to slow down. When asked directly about the accusations that shadowed his career, Diane gave a simple, unwavering answer. She believed her friend. Years later, when she was honored with the AFI Lifetime Achievement Award in 2017, Woody Allen showed up in person to celebrate her. Standing before a room full of Hollywood's biggest names, he called her his inspiration, saying much of what he had accomplished in life came from seeing the world through her eyes. But Woody wasn't the only man who shaped Diane's story. When The Godfather came along, so did Al Pacino. They met on set in 1972, but sparks didn't really fly until a couple of years later when they reunited for The Godfather, Part 2. What followed was an on-and-off romance that lasted over a decade. Their connection was magnetic, passionate, unpredictable, and maybe a little too intense for the long haul. In her memoir, Then Again, Diane confessed that the Godfather movies were all about Al for her. Every scene, every moment, every memory. She admitted that she wanted more from him, much more than he was willing to give. At one point, she gave him an ultimatum: marry her or lose her. Al didn't choose marriage. Diane walked away. It broke her heart, especially after losing her father around the same time. But she refused to settle for less than what she deserved. Still, there was no bitterness between them. Decades later, when she received that AFI Lifetime Achievement Award, Pacino was there too, smiling, proud, and full of affection. He stood up, looked at her, and told her he would love her forever. And somehow, after everything, you could tell he meant it. When that relationship faded, Diane found comfort and excitement in someone she'd admired long before Hollywood came calling: Warren Beatty. The two started dating in 1978, and she later called it amazing. She described him as romantic in ways only he could be, like the time she had to fly from LA to New York, terrified of flying, and he promised to walk her to the plane. He didn't just walk her on. He stayed for the entire flight, holding her hand as the plane took off, then kissed her goodbye when they landed, before catching the next flight back to LA. Their chemistry was undeniable, both on-screen and off. They starred together in Reds in 1981, a passionate political epic that mirrored the intensity of their real-life relationship. But by 1983, they had gone their separate ways. And then there was Steve Jobs. Yes, that's Steve Jobs. Most people don't even know this happened, but it did, briefly, and it was awkward. In a light-hearted moment during an interview on The Ellen DeGeneres Show, Diane recounted the story. She explained that after Annie Hall, Jobs reached out and invited her to his apartment, which just so happened to be the top 3 floors of one of New York's most exclusive buildings, the San Remo. She went, curious to meet this young tech visionary everyone was talking about. But instead of romance, she got a 2-hour lecture on computers. She remembered sitting there as he passionately talked about how computers would one day take over the world, change how people lived, and become a household essential. Diane just sat there nodding, half amused, half bewildered, thinking, yeah, sure. Of course, he was right. But back then, she had no clue. She left that night thinking it was the weirdest date ever. And that was the end of it. From Woody's creative chaos to Al's intensity, Warren's grand gestures, and Steve's tech talk, Diane Keaton's love life was a collection of unforgettable stories. But what's most striking isn't who she dated. It's how she lived. She loved fully. She left when she needed to. And she never apologized for being herself. Diane didn't need a wedding ring to feel complete. She had her art, her independence, and her own kind of forever. One that didn't need to fit into anyone else's idea of love. But even as she lived boldly on her own terms, life still had its challenges waiting off stage. Diane Keaton's final battle. What really happened before her death? Diane Keaton was known for her laughter, her wit, and that magnetic spark that made every scene she touched unforgettable. But behind the bright smile, she was fighting battles that most people never saw. Before her tragic passing at 79, Keaton faced several health struggles that quietly shadowed her later years. Her cause of death was confirmed as primary bacterial pneumonia, but long before that final illness, her body had been through more than anyone imagined. It all began when she was just 21. At a time when her career was only beginning to take form, Keaton was diagnosed with basal cell carcinoma, a type of skin cancer that ran in her family. She once told the Los Angeles Times that skin cancer had haunted her relatives for generations. Her Aunt Martha had it so severely that doctors removed her nose. Her father battled it, her brother too. And for Diane, it became a lifelong fight. She admitted that when she was younger, she didn't take care of her skin. Back in her 20s, she never wore sunscreen or worried about the sun. Years later, she described that neglect as stupid, explaining that it came back to haunt her for most of her adult life. She didn't start protecting her skin until her 40s, a lesson she urged others to take seriously. But her struggle didn't end there. Decades after that first diagnosis, she faced another: squamous cell carcinoma. This time, she had to undergo 2 surgeries to treat the cancer. She kept working, smiling, and showing up for her fans. But the truth was, her body had already been through so much. Then there was the silent battle, one that had nothing to do with the sun, but everything to do with control and self-image. In her early years on Broadway, Diane developed bulimia after being told she needed to lose 10 pounds for a role. What began as a diet turned into an addiction that consumed her for years. She once opened up on the Dr. Oz show, calling herself an addict, not to drugs or alcohol, but to food and control. Her eating disorder had her consuming shocking amounts of food every night. Buckets of fried chicken, piles of fries drenched in blue cheese and ketchup, TV dinners, candy, soda, cakes, and even banana cream pies. It was excess masking emptiness. Eventually, someone noticed she wasn't okay. And that's when she began therapy, 5 days a week, trying to untangle what she had done to herself. Looking back in 2017, she said that her bulimia wasn't just about food. It was about an overabundant need for more validation, more acceptance, more everything. She described how she became a master of hiding it, living a double life that left her feeling isolated and ashamed. She admitted that her memories of Broadway were tainted because of it. She remembered feeling like an outsider, even when surrounded by people who adored her. Despite these challenges, Diane Keaton lived her life with courage and grace. She kept her struggles private, never letting them define her, even as her health began to falter toward the end. Her passing on October 11th in California came as a shock. Those closest to her revealed that her health had declined suddenly in the months leading up to her death. For someone so full of spirit, it felt almost unthinkable. A close friend described her final chapter as heartbreaking, saying her sudden decline was devastating for everyone who loved her. Inside Diane Keaton's final days, what her friends revealed after her death. When the news broke on October 11, 2025, that Diane Keaton had passed away at 79, the world stopped for a moment. Fans were stunned. Hollywood mourned. But for those who truly knew her, the friends who had laughed with her, worked with her, and loved her, the shock ran much deeper. Because even they didn't see it coming. In the days following her death, little was known about what exactly happened. The headlines confirmed her passing, but the details were quiet, almost too quiet. Now, those closest to Diane are breaking their silence, and their memories paint a heartbreaking picture of her final days. Her longtime friend, the legendary songwriter Carol Bayer Sager, opened up about the last time she saw Diane just a few weeks before she died. She remembered being startled by how frail she looked. Diane, once so vibrant and full of life, appeared thinner than ever. Carol recalled that she hadn't seen her often in the past year. After the wildfires earlier that year damaged Diane's Los Angeles home, she had temporarily relocated to Palm Springs while the house was being cleaned and repaired. When she finally returned, Carol said she barely recognized her. Diane had lost so much weight, and it was clear something wasn't right. Another close friend confirmed what many feared, that Diane's health had declined rapidly in her final months. They described it as sudden and heartbreaking, especially for someone who had always radiated strength and energy. What made it even more difficult was how private it all was. Even Diane's closest friends had no idea just how serious things had become. Her family kept everything quiet, focusing on making her final moments peaceful and surrounded by love. Then, on October 15th, her family released a statement confirming what fans had been waiting to know. Diane Keaton had passed away from pneumonia. They thanked everyone for their outpouring of love and support, saying they were deeply grateful for the messages that had poured in from across the world. But behind that official statement was a moment of chaos that played out just days earlier. According to a 911 call obtained by TMZ, the Los Angeles Fire Department was dispatched to Diane's home around 8 a.m. that Saturday morning after a call came in about a person down. Paramedics arrived, but it was too late. As the news spread, tributes began flooding in from every corner of Hollywood. Her friends, co-stars, and admirers all shared what she meant to them, and the words were as moving as the woman herself. Al Pacino, her Godfather co-star and one-time love, wrote a powerful message that left fans emotional. He admitted that, when he first heard the news, he was shaken to his core. Diane, to him, wasn't just a former partner. She was a part of his story. He wrote about how she had brought him happiness and even changed the direction of his life more than once. Even though they hadn't been together in decades, the memories between them came flooding back with a force he described as both painful and beautiful. He remembered her as someone who lived without limits, a woman whose every move carried that unmistakable Diane Keaton spark. To him, she was magnetic, lightning and charm, hurricanes and tenderness, all wrapped into one. Al wrote that while the world would surely miss her, what mattered most was that she would be remembered forever, because her mark on film and on people's hearts could never fade. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences also honored her legacy. In a heartfelt post, they described her as someone who embodied the contradictions of being human, funny and fragile, bright and bruised, always achingly honest. They reminded the world that her spirit would live on, not just through her movies, but in the millions of people who saw themselves in her characters. Among those paying tribute was Jane Fonda, her book club co-star and close friend. She admitted it was hard to believe, or even accept, that Diane was gone. Jane remembered her as a spark of life and light, someone who could find humor in her own flaws and turn ordinary moments into art. She called her endlessly creative, not just in her acting, but in everything she touched: her books, her home, her style, her friendships, and her entire way of seeing the world. During an event in Los Angeles, actress Reese Witherspoon also grew emotional when she remembered meeting Diane for the first time. She was just a teenage girl with a thick Southern accent, auditioning for a role in Diane's directorial debut, Wildflower. Reese recalled how Diane took one look at her and decided right there that she was hired. She remembered Diane's exact words, that she didn't know who this young actress was, but she was excited to have her on board. That moment, Reese said, changed her life forever. Reese later took to social media to post a video from that tribute, writing that Diane Keaton had changed how the world saw women on screen: smart, funny, stylish, and unapologetically original. She called her a mentor and a light. As the tributes poured in, one thing became clear. Diane Keaton wasn't just another Hollywood star. She was a soul people felt connected to, a woman who lived her truth loudly and beautifully. After the funeral, Diane Keaton's daughter finally breaks her silence. After Diane Keaton's funeral, Hollywood was quiet. Tributes had poured in from every direction, from co-stars, old friends, and admirers around the world. But one person had remained completely silent: her daughter, Dexter. For weeks, fans noticed the silence. No statements, no interviews, just quiet, until now. Dexter Keaton, Diane's eldest child, has always been private. She and her brother, Duke, rarely appeared in the spotlight, only stepping out for their mother's biggest milestones. But over the years, Dexter had quietly shared her love for her mom in the most genuine way, through small, heartfelt posts on Instagram. In one of her most touching tributes, posted on June 19, 2023, Dexter shared 2 black and white photos of herself as a child, holding hands with her mother. She wrote about how much she cherished their time together, calling their adventures, from walks on the beach to exploring new neighborhoods, some of her favorite memories. She described how they always had an amazing time, ending her message simply with, "I love my mom." Then, in August 2024, just months before Diane's passing, Dexter posted a memory from her 2021 wedding, a photo of her dancing with her mother. She used the moment to celebrate Diane's latest book release, writing, "Swipe to see why everyone should be dancing like this." My mom's new book is coming out September 3rd. That book, Fashion First, became one of Diane's final projects, a reflection on her iconic, fearless sense of style that had defined her for decades. 2 years earlier, in August 2022, both Dexter and Duke stood proudly beside their mother during her hand and footprint ceremony at the TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood. When Diane was asked what it meant to have her children there, she summed it up in one word: everything. That same day, Dexter posted a photo from the event with a caption that showed just how much pride she carried for her mom. What an amazing day honoring my mama. I am so proud of you, and this is an incredible honor. I love you. Her love for her mother went far beyond fame or ceremonies. Back in January 2021, Dexter posted a throwback from a family trip with her brother Duke and their nanny, Sandra. She joked about her mom walking around barefoot, something totally normal for Diane. It was simple, funny, and deeply personal, the kind of detail that only family would know. But her most emotional post came years earlier, on Mother's Day in 2014. She called Diane her amazing mama, saying she was grateful to have been adopted by such a strong, beautiful, and talented woman. Now, in the wake of her mother's passing, those old words hit differently, softer, heavier, and full of love. Even in silence, Dexter's bond with Diane Keaton speaks louder than anything else could. Were you a fan of Diane Keaton? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click on the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.